Hello all. Hello. I hope you can all hear me now. If you could just drop a comment, let me know that I'm now live. And we'll probably start getting this going in just a minute or so. Just going to wait for people to start arriving. So yeah, just drop a comment, let me know if I can be heard, if I'm here. And I'll soon begin very, very shortly in about a minute by introducing myself. So perfect. So if any other admins on the group at the moment can just go and comment on this and just let me know that everything's working, everyone can see me and the audio is all working, we can get this going very, very shortly, okay? Okay, just gonna wait for some people to come into this stream. Okay, perfect, good. Can start to see the comments as well. We'll just wait a minute or so for everyone else to come in. Hello, welcome. Just gonna wait a minute or so until everyone else comes in and then we can get this going, okay? Please do feel free right now, by the way, to start typing in your questions for this live, and I'll be very, very happy to jump on and answer them as we start to go. So just start typing in the questions in the comment section, and towards the end of this talk, I'll start addressing some of them. So, yeah, look forward to starting in about a minute or so as more people arrive, and I can introduce myself properly. Good. Hello. Welcome everyone who's just come in. If you can, feel free to just write in and type in your questions that you have. And we're going to start doing this talk probably about just a minute or so. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to come in, and then we can begin this properly. Good. Amazing. That should be a good number to get started with. This video will be live, it will be available, by the way, once this is all done, so you'll be able to watch it in its full length, in its entirety. So if you're just coming in now, you haven't missed anything. If you have any questions, just type them in the comments and we'll address them. But for now, I just wanted to start by introducing myself. So my name is Kam Taj, and I'm a performance coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. For me, I'm so grateful to be here on this 11 Plus Journey group page. I love what's being done with this group. I think it's so, so important to create this support system, this community around each other, to really help you as parents as well, because the truth is there's such little guidance on these kind of things, and it can be so overwhelming sometimes when we really think about whether we're doing the things right or whether we're going about them the wrong way. So it really is so wonderful to have a community like this around, and I'm very, very grateful to be invited here to talk today. And the reason why I've come to deliver this talk is because for me, parenting and academic success are such areas of passion. My story, just a bit about my background. As I said, now I'm a performance coach, speaker, and author, but before this, I was at Cambridge University, where I graduated with my degree in engineering. But before that, way, way, way back, I was on my own 11 plus journey. So, a bit of background to me and my family as well. My parents came from Iran during the revolution and came to this country. And so I was raised in North London. And when it came to that stage where we were looking at which schools to go to, which grammar schools to go to, I was fairly good academically when I was in primary school, and so schools like QE Boys came onto our radar. I also started when I was younger doing Kumon maths, which helped to really build my confidence in my mathematical ability. And so I went for two schools for the 11 plus kind of journey. I went for QE Boys and I went for Latimer School. And for me at the time, I've got to be honest, I didn't feel a crazy amount of pressure at all. Thankfully, that was partly because of my parents. They were very relaxed about it. They just wanted me to do my best. They said, as long as you do your best, that's all that matters. I didn't have a large amount of tuition at all. I had about one tutoring session every 2 weeks or so, because non-verbal reasoning and verbal reasoning, which were popular at the time, which I know for quite a few entrance exams now don't really exist. They were ones that we hadn't been taught about at school at all. So, but I was quite diligent, I put in the work, and when I went to the actual exams, I was fairly relaxed. You know, as a child, I was quite into sports, and so competition was something that I was not too afraid of. I knew that I wasn't very good at many things, but I was okay with not being good as long as I could see these small improvements in how I was progressing in these different areas. So I'm very grateful to that as well. It gave me that perspective to allow me to go into these exams and to just give my best. And I remember actually after my first entrance exam I did for Latimer School, it went terribly. Midway through the exam, I had to go to the bathroom because my stomach was so upset, which meant I lost time in that exam. I remember coming out of there so disappointed, and my mum had come to pick me up, and she said, "How did it go?" I said, "Terrible, I don't want to talk about it." And she went and took me to get pizza, which at the time was like a treat for me. It was a massive treat for me. And I said, "I don't deserve this." My mum said, "Did you do your best?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." She goes, "Then you do deserve it." And so from this very young age, I was just taught this mentality that it doesn't matter what the outcome is. All that matters is that you do your best. If you keep doing your best, the outcome will emerge. And I'm very grateful to my parents for instilling this into me. Now, I went to Q Boys eventually, and Q was a school that I felt suited me. I'm going to let your parents know, right? It won't suit everyone. I know a lot of students who went there who really struggled there. They didn't like the discipline. They didn't appreciate the opportunity that was there, and they found it quite challenging. For me, it suited me all right, especially in my younger years. As I got to GCSEs, I think I became a bit more rebellious, and I didn't quite enjoy the structure as much. But all in all, as I said, I was very involved with sports, and it gave me a good environment to do my sports. And as long as I was doing my sports, I was quite happy. And as long as I was doing well in my academics, my parents were happy to let me do my sports. So for me, this began that kind of journey into this balance as well between doing my sports, the things I loved, while also honouring my academic studies. I did my GCSEs, and they went again quite well because, again, the same mentality. I'm just going to do my best, and if I keep doing my best can get better every single day with continued work. And I ended up excelling in my GCSEs. Of course, there was a challenge here because what I found with GCSEs was they were quite suited to me. We weren't going very deep into any one particular area, but I felt strong enough in every subject to that extent where I could excel at it. Now, if I was doing it in today's grades, I'd have gotten mainly 8s. So not 9s. I'd have gotten A stars, but mainly in the 8 range, not so much the 9 range. But at the time, that was enough. And so I took, for A-levels, I took maths, physics, chemistry, and further maths. There were a lot of reasons why I chose those subjects. Not all of them were well thought through. A lot of it came down to just, I don't know what I want to do, and these subjects tend to give me some options. And I'm from an ethnic background, and my parents are very much proponents of sciences, so let's go and do that. I didn't think that much about it. And that year, in year 12, they let me know that, look, you did well in your GCSEs, Cambridge might be on the radar for you. I didn't take it that seriously, and when it came to year 13 and I sent off my applications, I wasn't in the mindset that this was somewhere I was actually going to get into. I didn't know anyone who'd gone there, and I didn't really think too much about it. But partly it was because, again, I was relaxed about that. It was just, again, about doing my best. It was about knowing that, yes, I'm very afraid to fail at this, but also I failed before. And each time I failed, there's an opportunity to learn from that. And I was able to go and do my interview, and I ended up getting an offer. Now, that led to a whole host of other problems because my offer required an A star in further maths, which was a subject that I was about to drop midway through year 13 in January because I was struggling at it so much. But what I found in the end of the day with that as well was I'd rather know and be disappointed than to not know and always wonder. And I absolutely was able to commit my best to it and ended up getting an offer and going to Cambridge University. After that, I graduated from Cambridge in engineering. I went to the city and worked as a management consultant. But this passion in me to do this field of performance improvement in terms of personal and professional development had already started to take form. And I made a decision to leave that to go and begin this journey. So that's kind of a bit about my story. What I've been doing the last few years is very much around the academic side of things. I'm helping students to develop these tools to help them get through their exams and achieve their ideal grades, while also experiencing the minimal amount of stress and ensuring that their mental well-being is being optimized. Because our kids' mental well-being, nothing else matters more. If you think about it as parents, right, you want your kids to be happy, healthy, and ideally to have a good relationship with you. Everything else is kind of a bonus, and it's not worth the cost of losing these things. If they have the best grades in the world and they have a great job that earns a lot of money, but they're miserable, they're unhealthy, and their relationship with you's been tarnished, it's not really worth it, right? This is something that I've seen so much in my peers who've gone to Cambridge University, who at this stage in their lives, at my age, and I'm 27 years old now, they are already struggling with the jobs that they're in, they feel demotivated, they feel a bit lost about it. Cambridge isn't a magic bullet, and neither is going to a grammar school. It suits some of us, but ultimately, if you come into it with these insecurities and these chips on your shoulders, they'll only amplify as you go on in your journey, and you're going to end up struggling with issues like this. And that's where my passion for parenting came in. And I felt that my parents, no matter what happened, they were able to be supportive figures in my life. And the example I'm going to give here is that for me, I managed to go to Cambridge and get this job and so on. My sister, who's 3 years younger than me, was not academic at all. She wasn't academic at all. And my parents, touch wood, were able to acknowledge this. And they didn't push her in the way that perhaps they were more, letting me know the potential I had and trying to inspire me to do my best. They were very, very much in that mind frame of, look, we recognize that this isn't her strength. We're going to try and push her, but actually if she doesn't resonate with it, we're going to let it be. And the truth is she dropped out of school after her GCSEs. She didn't do her A-levels, and she didn't go to university. Currently, she's working a steady job in retail, and she is happy, she's healthy, and she has a great relationship with my parents, the same as I do. So my sister and I, raised in the same home, with very, very different temperaments, we're very different characters. My parents were able to recognize this and not try and force her to go down the path that I went down. And even despite the fact that she's had her own challenges as well, she's happy, she's healthy, and she's got a great relationship with my parents. She's got a great relationship with me as well. And I think as parents, it's so important for us to not lose sight of that vision. To not lose sight of that. It's so important that we remember that in the end of the day, yes, getting these grades is wonderful, going to this grammar school is great, and getting to a top university is wonderful, but it's not worth the cost of tarnishing your relationship with them. And so there's a couple of things I wanted to share today. There were 5 key points that I wanted to communicate with you all before I started answering some of the questions. And 3 of these 5 points are directed towards your children, things for you to think about with regards to how they're growing and how they're developing, and hopefully practical things that you can actually implement. Meanwhile, the other 2 things are for you guys as parents to just keep in mind on your journey and to hopefully help you. So the first of these points is that one of the priorities, one of the gifts that we want to give our kids is the gift of a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset is different to what's called a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, we are always afraid of encountering our limits. We're always worried about our identity being invalidated. We're always worried that, I'm smart, but what if I do badly and then I'm no longer smart? And so we become afraid of trying because we're so afraid to have this identity disproved. That's a fixed mindset. People with that fixed mindset, they don't like criticism, and they don't like putting in effort because they think that their effort's not going to help them become better. They feel like their effort's not worth it because what if they're really stupid deep down? What if they're really not a good student deep down? Whereas the growth mindset says, I can become better every single day. My best today may not have been good enough, but it can become better every single day. Unfortunately, what happens is at this early stage with 11 plus, so many children are learning to be afraid of failing and making mistakes. Whether that comes because of parental expectations, competition with their peers, any of these factors. But this isn't how life works. Right? If you think about your life and your experiences, look to your own failures and mistakes as parents, how you learned from them, and how they allowed you to be where you are today, how they allowed you to grow into the person that you are today. Why would you deprive your child of these experiences? One thing that's so important is we need to show our children that while failure isn't the ideal outcome for them, it's also a positive thing because it creates learning experiences. And one thing we almost have to do is to learn how to celebrate failure or to celebrate the lesson that comes from failure and to create this positive emotional association with it as opposed to what we currently feel, which is this immense negative, right? One of the things when I grew up, tennis was my competitive sport, and my coach used to tell me, look, you don't learn when you win. Winning is the result when you learn the lessons from your failures and losses. And this was so important because this mindset helped to kind of create that resilience for me in terms of if I lose, I can be disappointed, but there's still so much for me to gain from it. but also it instilled in me a love for learning. You know, the students who are often most successful are those who can keep their love for learning, whether they're learning about cool subjects at school or different subjects that everyone else might think is a bit boring or a bit dull, or they feel the pressure and because of that they lose their love for it. But they can maintain that curiosity. Or whether it's about learning from their mistakes. Becoming a mistake-based learner is one of the best gifts you can give your kids. You know, creating this identity of, it's not about I am smart, it's about I am a learner. I am the best learner that I can be. If you want your child to be anything, tell them to be the best learner they can be. That way, if they succeed, it's because they're a good learner. Not because of their natural talent or skills, but because they have learned well. And if they didn't achieve the outcome, that's okay. Now they can actually be a great learner and learn from their mistakes that led to that outcome. And one of the exercises I give to parents who are at this kind of 11 plus age range is speak to your kids and find out who their heroes or favourite characters are, whether it's from a TV show or in real life. And you go and do some research as parents and find out the stories of their failures, right? Because no success story in this world has happened without encountering some failure. And the truth is, with many of these figures, they're quite documented, right? Even if it's from a TV show, characters have arcs where they fail and make mistakes and they come out of that and succeed. And bring that and kind of reconcile that gap for them. Show them that, oh look, this character's been able to do this and you can do the same. And the most important thing as parents with this is you must show them that you love and respect them, even if they're failing, even if they're not doing well. Because as long as they're doing their best, as long as they're this learner, they know that their best can start getting better every single day, and they know that they have the stability of your love and support to guide them in that direction. So that's the first thing, creating that growth mindset and that mindset for how you can transform failure as a negative thing that shows that you didn't achieve an outcome into a positive learning experience. The second gift you can give your children is to help them create a reflective mindset. A mindset where already at this age, 9, 10 years old, they're starting to reflect on their own performance. And this is something that's really actually not too difficult to do, right? I'm sure your kids are doing papers and doing practice things for 11 plus exams. Well, before you mark them, or before you get your tutors to even mark them, ask your child to reflect. What do they think they did well? What do they think they struggled with in that paper? How did they do with their pacing, with their timing on it? How many silly mistakes do they think that they made? What would they do differently next time, right? These questions at first will feel very foreign to them. They'll feel very, very unfamiliar with them because they haven't been asked to reflect like that before. But it's such a valuable skill because then when you actually go and mark it, you can match up their thoughts and small reflections with their actual results and look at how they matched up, look at how they connected, right? And this teaches them this vital skill of reflection. It allows them to engage with a task that they've done on a deeper level. And what it means is that for each paper they do, they come out with even more insight. It's not just this paper they're doing because they have to. It's a paper they're doing and then thinking about, what did I do well there? What could I have done differently? Was I good with my timing there? It's such a valuable gift to give them. And it also gives them autonomy and freedom, right? They're not just being told by their parents and tutors what to improve on. They're learning to figure it out for themselves, right? And of course, if they're engaging with ideas around, say how fast they're doing their paper and how they might do better if they slow down for a little bit to ensure they don't make silly mistakes and start to gently speed up again with practice, right? It's actually giving them these reflections as well with this. So it's just so helpful to have this kind of mindset of creating a reflective child, to help your child ask the right questions to get them to gain more from each paper they do, as opposed to when they're just doing them because they have to be doing them, get it over with, try and improve each time, right? Small things that can make such a difference. And again, the mindset with which they reflect is really important. They're not reflecting to figure out what's wrong with them and why they're doing wrong. It's got to be done with this curiosity. You're curious to uncover these different elements about yourself and to learn from your mistakes, as opposed to feeling like you have to do this, which is immensely disempowering, and it feels more like a chore than it does a choice. And the third gift we can give our kids is creating a high-performance mindset for our children. I've had parents emailing me recently once this talk was announced, telling me that their kids are suffering from sleep problems because of the anxiety and pressure and just the fear of underperforming in these exams. This is at 9, 10 years old. And that is quite a tough thing for a child to be going through at that age. You know, and it's not setting a good precedent for as they go on to more important exams like their GCSEs and A-levels and so on, right? But here's the thing. If we've attached this much importance to achieving success in these exams and avoiding failure, right? The truth is if our child is thinking of these things all the time, their own expectations and fears are going to get in the way of their performance. And it is on you as parents to keep reminding them that, guys, these results are not everything, right? You can only do so much, and all you can do is your best. And what I want to point out here is a lot of parents, like, we get defensive when we think about the pressure we're applying on our kids. And we go, no, we're not putting them under pressure, right? But here's the thing. Perception is reality. If your child perceives that there's pressure on them, it exists, whether or not you think you're putting it on them or not. So it's so important for you not to judge yourself about this, but to really impartially ask your child, like, do you feel pressure coming from us? And if so, how can we work together on alleviating that pressure? Because we don't want you to feel that. And the reason why that pressure isn't positive, because if you think about it, every single time you're in an exam situation, and the thought that you're having is a thought about how worried you are, or what happens if you make a mistake, and you're getting caught up in these thoughts. That's one less unit of mental concentration, one less bit of bandwidth that you would normally be devoting to doing the task at hand, that paper, that's otherwise being wasted on this anxious thought that is not helping in any way, right? It's about actually realizing that having this pressurizing thought in our mind, it's not helping us perform any better in the task that we're doing. It's something that we learn quite early as athletes when we're younger. It's that if you're too busy worrying about whether you win or the point or not, you're probably going to lose the point because you're not focused on the point itself. Just as if you're doing a paper and you're thinking about, oh God, I can't get this wrong because if I get this wrong, I'm not going to get into my school of choice and my parents will be disappointed. You're not actually focusing on the question itself and engaging with it. So it's so important to let go of that pressure and to put your mental energy as a child towards just the question at hand. And one of the things I recommend to parents is to get your child to practice a little bit using visualization and imagination. Right? One of the things that a lot of students worry about is when they're in the actual exam room, all these other kids there lined up, that's their competition, and what if they don't perform well? And I'd almost say that when they're doing their past papers or practice papers, ask them to imagine a room full of students like it's an exam. Close their eyes and imagine it like it's a practice room. And train themselves to imagine themselves being in that room, but as the only person there, right? The only person in that exam. And this is what's going to help them to essentially simulate, ever so slightly simulate that condition that they're going to be in over there, and help them to imagine what it's going to be like in that room, and imagine how they're in that room, but able to almost block it out and just focus on just having fun doing their own paper, right? This is what I used to do when I was a child, when I was doing my 11 plus. It was almost like I'd close my eyes. I had a little statue with me that I'd hold in my pocket, and I'd kind of give a little prayer for to kind of say, I'm just going to do my best. I'm really grateful to be here. I used to shut my eyes and imagine myself as the only kid in the room. Nothing else matters. It's just me and the paper. And this is just about me honouring this paper as best I can. And having fun with these questions, because while I'm in this room, I just want to give it my all. That's it. And the person who gave me this idea was in fact one of the coaches for tennis that I had in one of the squads I was playing in. So there's a lot of room actually when it comes to these extracurricular activities to teach you things as well about how you can adapt to exam and pressure situations. So this is something I wanted to pass on with regards to kids. And then there were two things I wanted to pass on to you guys as parents that I want you guys to think about. The first one is fill your own cup. There's an expression, you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? You've almost got to fill yourself up with energy, with love, in order for it to overflow onto others. But the problem is that so many cultures that we're from perceive self-care as a negative. Right? If we look to our parents, oftentimes you'll realise our parents were quite stressed as well when we were growing up. And so we pick up those same habits and we neglect ourselves. But the truth is we can't give what we don't have. And if we as parents are always anxious and stressed, how do you think we're affecting our children? Our children in these impressionable ages are like sponges. They are learning constantly from us, consciously and subconsciously. And in fact, it's been shown that the voice of a child's internal dialogue, right, their self-talk, their voice of whether it's self-criticism or praise, very often takes the form of the voice of their parents. So if you're speaking to yourself out loud harshly, to your partner harshly, to them harshly, that's the same voice that they're going to adopt, which is not the legacy that you want to leave them with. the more able you as a parent become to devote time to yourself, to manage your anxiety, to process your emotions in a healthy way, to show that you prioritize your own self-care, to model that behavior in front of them so they can actually see that you are looking after yourself in this way, the more likely they are to do the same. So please don't neglect your self-care as parents. We cannot give what we don't have. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And it's important that you start to prioritize your self-care. Now, the final thing I want to share with parents is, guys, as parents, we have a choice about what our kids inherit from us. And one thing I'm going to say is it's not about money, it's not about knowledge, it's not about these things. Let your child inherit your love, not your fears. And this statement is very profound in terms of how it's affected me and how I interact, how I live my life. Because every decision we make in life, every decision we make, interaction we have, has these two separate forms of dialogue going on in our minds, right? Love and fear, right? Love-based emotions are like peace, joy, gratitude, happiness, curiosity, and all these things. Fear-based emotions, worry, stress, hate, worrying about how others will perceive us, disappointment, regret, all of these kind of things, right? And if you notice, around everything you say or do, these two things are constantly interplaying with each other. And the thing I want to ask you guys as parents is just reflect for a minute. When you tell your child perhaps in the future not to take drugs, are you saying it out of love for them? Or are you saying it out of the fear of the pain that you'll experience as parents if harm comes to them? Or even how it would reflect on you as parents? The answer? Probably a combination of both. So it's just important to realize the interplay in this and then choose that, okay, well, if I'm going to communicate this to them, it's important that I communicate it with love in my tone of voice, being softer, more gentle, more understanding and compassionate than with the firmness and rigidity that comes from fear. You know, when we tell our child to eat healthier, are we saying it out of their love for health and well-being? Or are we saying it out of the fear of the pain that we'll experience if they suffer? Or if we outlive them, God forbid, you know? These are the kind of things that, again, we've got to realize there's love and fear here, you know? And it's important to think about in this way. When your parents, you as parents, when your parents, your child's grandparents told you to study hard in order to get secure and prestigious jobs, were they saying it out of their love for us? Or were they saying it out of fear of the pain that they would experience if we were to struggle to fulfill our basic needs, or the shame that they might feel at the lack of our success? Were they perhaps saying it out of the same fear that their parents, your grandparents, experienced when they grew up in an environment where resources were scarce and war was rife and poverty was common? Is that the same mindset that we want to give our kids in this very, very different world? It is so vital to be able to communicate with love as opposed to fear. Our tone of voice, our body language, all of these things influence the message that we're communicating. And the key thing here is for your child to know that you love them regardless. But if all of your actions and your tone of voice is saying otherwise, right? It's not something that they're going to resonate with. It's something they're going to feel this disconnect, this incongruency with. So I just want to leave you with those 5 points, right? The 3 gifts to give to your kids. The growth mindset, that kind of curiosity with learning and that reflectiveness. And, of course, this kind of element of having that performance mindset around not letting your thoughts be consumed by pressure. And as parents, to fill your own cup and to let your child inherit your love and not your fears. These are just some ideas that I wanted to introduce to you today. I'd be so happy to jump on a call with any one of you guys watching. If you just get in touch with me, email me, get in touch and ask any questions you have. I'd be very happy to discuss these more in the context of your kids, because I'm sure some of you are listening to this and thinking, oh, that doesn't quite work for my child. That's okay, it's not meant to. No child is the same. These are just ideas for you to think about, to kind of digest, take some time to think about. And with that in mind, I wanted to kind of now address some of these questions that perhaps have been asked now. So, at the moment, let's see what we've got. We've got some comments. Fear of failure and criticism is so real for many of us. Yes, it is, right? And if you think about it, as parents, you still have these fear of failure and criticism. When did this start? Well, it started probably when you were kids, right? It probably started with harsh words from your parents or from your teachers. Why would you give your kids that same fear? Don't let them inherit that. You know, take some time to really think about what am I teaching my child by my own responses and my fears? A growth mindset is the magic bullet, and I realize this is an adult. Many children are labelled so young and believe this for life. Yes, completely. Labelling is one of the most dangerous things that we can do, and unfortunately, our own lack of knowledge around these things, as parents perhaps, is what overflows onto our kids. So no matter what age we're at, no matter what stage we're at, we can train ourselves to have this growth mindset. Very helpful, thanks. You're so welcome, Abdullah. I really appreciate that. Having a role model is important. It makes everything our perspective. As parents, you do not know just how much of a role model you are. Wait till they become teenagers and they start ignoring you in everything you do. Trust me when I say this. They're still looking up to you. They're just doing so from a distance. One of the best analogies I ever heard for parents who have teenagers is one of those things that it's like you've got to imagine yourself as parents. Your child is a swimmer in a big swimming pool, right? They're swimming out in the pool, and while they're swimming out in the pool, they're just experiencing the joy of being there. But of course, at points, they're going to get tired in this pool of life. Things will happen. Maybe they get dunked over, maybe they swallow some water from the pool, and they need to catch their breath. That's when they go to the edge of the pool, which is what you as parents are. You are the edge of the pool, right? They come to you for that support, for that love, for those words of affirmation. But then they don't stay there. A lot of parents, they want their child to just stay there with them on the edge of the pool. But what kids often do, if you'll notice, is when you see them actually swimming, they don't just go back to the water, they push off the wall to get back in. The edge of the pool does not hold the child back. So why should you hold yours back? Let them come and let them go. Just enjoy the fact that they're still there, using you as that support. The most powerful things you can say to your child at any stage is, hey, how can I support you best right now? You know, how can I support you best right now? What would make you feel most loved right now? What would make you feel most supported? And let them just think about that and give an answer. And even if they would say, just leave me alone, go away, just the fact that you said that has now sunk into their minds that they're still there. They care what I think, and they're there for me. And even though in that short-term moment it hasn't gotten the result that maybe you wanted, it has had a positive impact. They feel listened to, they feel cared for and understood. And it's that behind-the-scenes stuff that's happening that really makes a difference on their formative years. How they feel that they're stable, they're supported, and they're loved and trusted. If you're interested, by the way, that swimming pool analogy came from a lady who wrote a book. Her name is Dr. Lisa Damour, and I really recommend her book. Her books, actually. They talk a lot about parenting, especially with regards to young teenage girls. I really recommend it. It's a great read to have. Let's see, having a role model is important. Yep, problems like grinding his teeth while sleeping. Again, we pick up these habits so young, and it's an indicator of stress as well. So it's really important to help our child almost understand what it is that's causing them stress. And you'll be surprised as to how self-aware your kids are at that stage. They see things quite simply, and they don't yet feel perhaps the intense shame that they start to feel later on in their lives around these things, which is something, again, as parents, we've got a role model. Right? A lot of us came from cultures where vulnerability was a big no-no. You can't be vulnerable as a parent. You can't be vulnerable. You can't show vulnerability. I mean, it's one of the most harmful things that we can do. Yes, it's true. We don't want to... Look, we're not as parents meant to be our kid's best friend. That's true. But we also don't want to be this person, this mythical figure that they look up to, and that every word that they say can break them apart, can be their executioner as well. And sometimes telling that story in that moment of, hey, you know, I remember being really stressed in my exams too. It's not just you. Yeah, you know, I think I did that and I said that. I'm sorry, I said that out of fear. I'm going to be honest with you. Even mum gets it wrong sometimes. Even dad gets it wrong sometimes. I'm really sorry. Saying that is a very, very powerful thing to say to your child. It does not show weakness. It shows immense strength, and it models a good habit as well. Owning up and being accountable for the mistakes that you make. Can you imagine seeing that as a child and having that behaviour being role model? It is so, so powerful. Thanks for all the information from you. It'll be more helpful when my child does his tests. Absolutely will be. But I do hope that some of those tips around self-care as a parent, I do hope that some of those ideas around, look, how can I start building this growth mindset now? How can I start supporting my child now, right? One thing I just wanted to add very quickly was around this idea of extracurricular activities. Guys, if you're denying your children around this 9-10 age their extracurricular activities, like doing sports and things like that, you are doing them a huge disservice. There was actually a study done at Cambridge University, right, the cream of the crop academically, which they looked at 4,000 undergraduate students between 2006 and 2015, 4,000 undergraduates, and they found that students who performed at university level at sport, which is quite a high level, that's like county level at sport, and so, you know, they were training probably 4 or 5 times a week when they were students at school, in secondary school, right? They performed better than the average undergraduate population in their exams. They had a high percentage of students getting first class grades, 5% higher, and they had 10% more students getting 2-1s, which means that essentially more students doing sport got first and 2-1s than the overall undergraduate population, right? This is a very, very powerful study, and they tried to understand why this was, and it's because of multiple reasons. One, sports teaches us how to lose, right? We become resilient in that losing. We don't take failure so personally, and we see it as learning experiences. Two, the health benefits of sport are incredible, right? Whether it comes to just the neurotransmitter response in terms of endorphins being produced, vital for mental health, whether it's the release of dopamine and serotonin vital for mood and sleep, whether it's brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which helps in terms of mental replenishment and restoration. Sport is such a powerful tool to have. It helps to increase the size of your hippocampus, which is the short-term memory storage in your brain. These little things make such a difference. And the other thing that they found with regards to this is because of the support group and community that they created outside of just being completely obsessed with exams. You have something else to put your energy and attention into. So don't deny your kids these extracurricular activities. Sports especially are so, so powerful. And part of that is taking the competitive element almost out of it for a little bit, right? A lot of kids, some are naturally competitive, but others don't like the idea of it. And it's about teaching them that it's okay to lose. As a parent, if you're having your kid do sport and stuff, never give them advice or tips on how to do better at their sport. All you say as a parent is, I love watching you play. I love how much you enjoy this. That's it. You just want to show them that it's acknowledged, that you appreciate this, and that's it. No tips, no advice, no you should do that differently next time, no how do you feel about that. Let them contribute that if you so wish. But you don't need to be the one who pushes them into these kind of things like that. Just say, I love watching you play, I love supporting you as you do this. Same goes for music, same goes for theatre, whatever it is that they're interested in. Just support them from afar. You don't need it to become your thing that you're helping them with. It's their journey, not yours. You are their guide, perhaps in a broader sense, but it's your job to shine, so to speak, the torchlight for them to walk that path, not to take them by the hand and drag them down it, right? Final things, really helpful tips, especially love versus fear. I'm so grateful that resonated with you. I go into companies, law firms, finance firms, and I talk about this love versus fear framework in terms of emotional intelligence. It is something that is a really important tool to use even in your decision making day to day. Question for a parent, how do I not pass my stress onto my child? By dealing with your stress. How do I deal with my stress? That's a topic for another talk. I wish I could go in depth around it. For the parent who asked that question, drop me a message. I'd love to share some tools with you as to how you can manage your stress. One thing I will say is, guys, why am I qualified to do this? I've actually published a book called The Ultimate Guide to Exam Success, and I've created the Exam Success Academy online program. It's got over 100 videos for students and for parents on things like time management and mindset management, including multiple tools on how to manage your stress response. It's one of those tools that I really feel is beneficial for a student and their parent. For a student who's 9-10 years old, it won't resonate as much. But once they reach that GCSE stage, it will really pay off. And if you as parents study these videos and learn them, you're going to know what to pass on, what skills you want to teach your child later on as they go forth. And you'll be able to work on yourself, you know? These are the same tools that I teach to my clients who are professionals, who I work with, again, as I said, in industries like consulting, in startups and in tech. You know, these are professionals like yourselves, I'm sure. But the reason why these tools resonate is because I've delivered them in the context of exams, but they're applicable to all of us. So if that's something you're interested in, please again, just drop me an email or a message and we can talk about that as well. So, I only passed on self-belief to mine. I didn't let them see my wobbles ever. I told them they could do it. That is superb to pass on self-belief. I also don't think it's a bad thing to let them see your wobbles, provided they're seeing your reflection on it. Going, you know what? Mum wobbled over here. Dad wobbled over here. I messed up a little bit. And you know what? Here's how I'm going to learn from it. If you're in my position, say it's your 9-year-old, if you're in my position, what would you do now to kind of respond to this? You know? It's amazing the kind of things your kids will say around, you know, whether it's, I pick myself up, I'd say it's okay that I messed up and I'm going to try my best next time. And each time they do that, it ingrains it for themselves as well. You know? So it's so, so important. So a child tells me Xbox is a sport. Oh, this is interesting. Video games. Kids are spending so much time on them nowadays. So look, I went to Cambridge University. I'll tell you, at least half the guys there play video games, even while they were there. I can't stand here and tell you that it's going to cause them to fail. It won't. The problem is if it's being used as a crutch, if it's being used as a form of escape from the pressures they have, and if the habit's becoming out of control. Right? A lot of kids gravitate to video games because doesn't have the pressure of real life, so to speak, right? And it's a form of escapism, it's a form of just adrenaline and interest. And those are not, and say, the most positive reasons. The positive reason is it gives them a sense of community and connectedness. So in this whole lockdown period, I think it's been a wonderful thing for kids to still be able to connect and do activities with their friends, even via video games. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. So I'd say that we shouldn't vilify it as parents just because we ourselves didn't do those kind of things. There's a lot of things around this world which are so different to the ones that we've grown up in. I'm 27 and I've got to be real with you. When I go and give talks now at schools, of like 14, 15, 16-year-olds, I've got to ask my clients who are that age group, guys, teach me a little bit and help me. What's going on right now with your group and your generation? I need to be up to date because they see things very, very differently. Even around social media, from my generation, which picked it up, the younger generation see it a very different way. So it's just interesting we've got to be constantly vigilant that the world is changing far quicker than we even think it is. And to become complacent in that is a dangerous thing to do. So I really, really recommend keeping an open mind with these things. And when it comes to gaming, guys, research papers are available, studies are available. They do have some positive benefits. But again, it depends on why they're being done and to what extent. And again, if you feel like your child is doing it too much, look, year 7, year 8, year 9, even when they go into secondary schools, it's not a huge problem. But if it starts jumping into year 10, year 11, then the talk's got to be, okay, well, is this a form of like stress relief? And if it is, what's a reasonable amount? And you can almost create these little contracts with them. What my parents said with me was, look, we're going to treat you like an adult here. Let's make a little contract together. You want to do your sports, right? What would that look like for you? And I said to them, well, I want to go to basketball training this times a week. I want to go to tennis training this times a week. This is what I want. And they said, right, okay. Well, if we're to honour that, that's this amount of our time going into taking you here and there. Here's what we'd like to see from you, right? We're going to do this in regards to your homework. We're going to ask you to kind of, make sure your grades are good at school. And I said to them, look, I don't like you guys following me up on my homework. It really makes me feel bad and I don't want to do it when you bring it up with me. And they said, okay, well, if that's the case, why don't we say that if your grades come back, you've got to tell me every grade that you get. And if it goes below a certain level, which we agreed for each subject, then we're allowed to check up on you again. And I said, you know what, that's perfectly fair. And I appreciated that they treated me like an adult. This was when I was around 14 years old. So it's one of those things that, again, it won't work for every child. It won't. It's just an idea that worked for me. So I've been going on now. It's been 45 minutes or so. I'm going to ask anyone else. Do you guys have any further questions? And just wait a minute. I'm going to wait a minute or so. But in the meantime, I just want to say, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. Perhaps this is one of the first times we've engaged together, in which case, please do connect with me. I'd be very, very happy to jump on a quick call with you guys, understand your situation more, and see if I can help in a brief call. I have all my resources available. I think they're on the link around the Exam Success Academy programs and stuff. Perhaps not appropriate for your kids who are doing 11 plus just yet, but perhaps valuable for you and perhaps valuable to your older kids perhaps you might have. It's one of those things that I really do believe in will help. I've got partnerships with Kiwi Boys School, and they offer it to all parents for their kids who are in year 11, 12 and 13. So it's something that I'm very proud of. I hope it adds a lot of value. And that's my kind of material. That's me in a nutshell. That's my background, that's my story. I really hope you found it useful. If you have any other questions, please do not hesitate to let me know. Please don't hesitate to get in touch. Saba, thank you so much for having me to the 11 Plus group. I love what you guys are doing with your community. And if you have any questions for me, as I said, just get in touch. Thank you so much. Gonna wait another 20 seconds or so for any other questions. And if not there, then I'm going to depart on the 45-minute marker. This video is going to be available for you all to watch. So by all means, if there are things that you felt you missed, or if I got excited and talked a bit too fast, by all means, feel free to just pause it, reflect on it. And yeah, let me know what resonated with you, and let me know anything else you'd like me to cover in future talks as well. Thank you. Karina, you're so welcome. I really appreciate it. Sheena, thank you so much for your comments. Glad you guys have carried on with sports as well. Saleha, thank you so much for your kind words. Hello to everyone else who's commented. Razia, you're welcome. I hope it does help your child when they do their tests. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciated this. Have a lovely evening, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon and interacting with you in the future. Take care. Goodbye.